Okay. So I've went back and forth on whether I was gonna do this video, but I've thought about it quite a bit, and I just decided I'm going to. Everyone else has something to say, and I think it's important for me, for my kids to see what I say. My kids know my heart. My kids know their dad's heart. They know how we feel about certain things. We're raising our children in a world that can be chaotic, but I think there's mostly good people in it. And I probably will disable the comments on this video in any related videos that I do following this. But I think it's important that people, especially people who are raising the next generation, speak up at this point. First, I want to say I am about as American as you can get. I'm Southern, at least 8th generation Tennessean. I know my grandpa's story. I know my grandpa's story. I know my grandpa's story. First-hand accounts of my grandpa and his dad. I've heard stories of their grandpa. I've heard stories of my grandpa's grandpa. And these were men who I respect. I think, I have different types of people within my family. I have a few of my grandfathers, on both sides, or on I guess it branches out in a bunch of different ways, but in all sides that have been veterans. I also have some that have not. And I firstly want to say, I don't care so much about what label you have or what service that you've pulled. I do respect everyone. I respect you if you've served. I respect you if you haven't served. My grandfather, my generations and generations of not only men, but also women have toiled this land, have built this land, and have developed this country. My grandfather owned, he did not serve. The one that I tagged along with the most in the Army, he owned a business, and those businesses had employees. Those employees paid taxes, which built this country. We now today have people who like to complain about those who have platforms to talk, and those people are employing thousands of people, and those people are paying taxes, and we're upset because we have young people who are the ones working and employing these people and paying the taxes, which are running this country, with their opinions and what they have to say. And I'm sorry, but maybe some of the older generation should have been building these platforms or building these businesses, the ones that are upset, to have the platform to speak and let their voice be heard. I don't think that it is right for you to tell someone who is 20 or 24 that they don't have a voice or they should be quiet when they employ thousands of people and those people pay taxes that run our country. I don't. I also don't think that, I'll say this, a first, second, or third generation American has the right to talk about this country politically. Your people are our people now because you are American citizens. So whatever kids you've had, yes, they're Americans. You're an American because you got American citizenship here. You are intern level American. And I say this with respect, and I don't say this to offend you, but I will say this to let you know that, yes, you can speak on political things, but you did not have generations and generations like my grandfather, my grandfather's grandfather, my grandfather's grandfather's grandfather, and also all the grandmothers throughout the line that were farmers, who were homeschooling their children, who were creating businesses, who employed lots of people, who paid taxes, who they might not have had sweat, blood, and tears via being a veteran. Some of my grandparents did. But even the ones that didn't, yours did it for another nation. And so I see a lot of people commenting who maybe shouldn't be commenting on things. I think your voice is heard, but if people don't respect you or don't respect what you have to say, you have to be okay with that, because you are not in the same situation of us Americans who can trace our lines back 10, 11, 12 generations in this country, who have the preachers who built this country, who kept these people going, who were farmers who farmed this land, who kept people going, who were the grandmothers of this country, who bared the children, who populated this country. You're not one of those. Okay? I say that with all the respect, but your generations, you are becoming the patriarch or the monarch of generations to come who will be able to. But there are certain people who should not be saying things. And I know that there was a big person that in the music industry who comes culturally from a different place, that had his voice, that shared what his thoughts on things were. With all his respect, I don't think that he should have been I don't put any, not that he shouldn't have said anything. I think everyone has the right to speak. I don't believe that his feelings should get hurt if people don't want to listen to him. Because he does not have generations of people who have been here, who have done it, who have ran this country, who have made this country. In addition to that, I would like to say that, just because you're a veteran, I've seen this a lot too, does not mean you're any better than anyone who's not a veteran. Because there are men who chose to create businesses or work, field jobs, even our linemen recently with the ice storm, they sacrifice their lives every day too. People who run businesses in this country or, have real estate or whatever, sacrifice their lives too in different ways every single day when they get behind a piece of equipment, when they get on farm equipment, when they're out doing the work that is toiling the land of this country. Their blood, sweat, and tears are in this country just as much as a veteran. They just chose, instead of going to war and listening to somebody who may or may not be ethical tell them that they should be killing people, they chose not to go down that route. Doesn't mean that they're any less patriotic than you are. And I want that to be very, very clear, because I have also seen that, and it's not true. Additionally, there are, we've became a country where we want people to work and pay taxes, and those things are very important, but we have disintegrated the fabric of the American family. It's very important. There have been, through the generations, previous generations have just left mothers at home to be single mothers raising their kids. The dads were not in the house daily, or the dads were gone long during the day. The family was not prioritized. It's just as important for my kids to have their father in their life and to see the world through their father's eyes, to take in knowledge from their father just as much as it is for me. And we've gotten away from the homeschooling. We've gotten away from owning a business. We've gotten away from farming, the jobs and careers that allowed families to ensure that both parents were extremely present in their kids' lives. And then we wonder what these new generations are doing. Well, that's a product of what you've raised. And if you're currently doing it, I no disrespect to anyone who, both parents have to work, and, there's a lot of privilege in being able to stay at home. There is also a lot of sacrifice in that. I will say that. When as a society we have gotten away from that, we see what the outcome is. You see it. So change it. If you want different, then change it. And if you are one of those who wasn't present for your children and you wonder what's going on with our country, take a look, take a note, share what you felt like didn't work. So, and also make sure your third or fourth generation isn't repeating your cycle. There's accountability in that. Those were the big things I wanted to address, because I feel like it's very important. I have people in my family who are preachers. My mom's granddad was a preacher. My grandmother's dad was a preacher. I have people in my family who were veterans. I have people in my family who were business owners. My grandfather, my great-grandfather, that whole line were all business owners. And they incorporated this county that we are in, that I live in. The very first people who came to Tennessee, my family was one of the very first ones to come to Tennessee, and they owned the majority of this county at one point and incorporated it, and those men did not fight in wars, but they have just as much blood, sweat, and tears in this land as anyone else. And I also think it's something to say, if you have an opinion, and you're not fourth, fifth, sixth generation, or you've been disconnected and you only know half of your family, educate yourself about other people in your family. Why were you not informed about other generations of your family, other sides of your family? Why was that the reason? Educate yourself about your roots in this country. It's extremely important. For me, my family was held together. My parents did get a divorce, but it wasn't until all the kids were grown. And my mother stayed, and she was like, if you don't change, when the kids are grown, I'm gone. She held to her promise. My dad did not change. When all the kids were grown, she was gone. And luckily for me, that meant I know my roots. I know everything about my family on both sides. I know how deep we go. And I take pride in being a Tennessean. I take pride in the county that I live in, and also the neighboring county, because I know my roots. I know how many generations back I go. I know everyone in my family. Half of my town I'm related to. And I think it's important for everyone else too. So if you grew up in a family where maybe you just were exposed to your mom's side of the family, or you were just exposed to your dad's side of the family, you need to find out about your family, find out stories, connect to relatives that you weren't exposed to if they're still alive. Find out stories about these people. It's when you know your family's story and you know the labor and the sweat that they have put into this country, it helps you to want to take ownership and want to be invested more and want to make the right decisions. And if you don't want to do that for yourself, if nothing else, learning more and more about where you come from is going to help you to make the right decisions for those around you, and take more ownership in what it is. You will be surprised. You will be surprised. Honestly, my husband, he wasn't necessarily exposed to everyone in his family. We found out so much. I was like, that's unacceptable. No, we're going to find out more about your family. And I'm going to dig in, and because I knew his family went back generations in Tennessee. And I was like, I'm going to find out. And we found out, and it's amazing. Like the stories that you find and the people you connect to and the stories that you hear about your generations that you didn't know about and their prior generations. And it's something that I think everyone should do. So first off, be nice to each other. Secondly, if you're upset because somebody is saying something politically, and you're like, well, they're removed, or, they don't really understand the troubles of the average American. They're employing the average American. And if you don't like it, then you do it. And then you can have that voice. The problem is we have a lot of people that like to complain in this country. We like to have a lot of people that like to argue. There are multiple truths that can be had at the same time. There are also a middle ground. You can agree with one thing on one side, one thing on the other. There's always a middle ground. And unless we come together and compromise, we will not move forward as a country. Unless we make changes to the family, to society, to how we do things, we will not move forward as a country. And I think it's very important that we do those things.